it was funny because Tick Price had been fired, right? And Tick gets fired, and Johnny Jones gets the interim job. And like a lot of interims, you see, there's a push, like, let's get him to, let's, people liked him, he's a charming guy. And there was a big push. And I actually wrote at the time, I said, no, you got to go get Calipari. Like if he's available, you got to get Cal. And so then the first press conference was just crazy when they hired him. It was at the Pyramid, just immense press conference when they hired him. But then the funny thing is that Cal didn't, like, I'm not a guy who criticized basketball strategy. It's just not, John knows a hell of a lot more about that than me. I would never do that. But I would criticize him like, like, remember when you guys had the fight against Tulane? Was it Tulane? And you had a bunch of guys suspended, remember? And John, he had a bunch of guys suspended, and he said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to suspend him for the first conference game because it'll be more meaningful. Well, that was BS. Like it was, and I would call him on stuff like that. And so John hated me. Like John hated me. But he was still fun to cover. And the other thing about it is even though he hated me, he wouldn't ever restrict access. Practices were open. Like it's crazy the access we got. And I'd go to his house on Selection Sunday and everything else. And but John, and I don't know if didn't you see this? John liked having some enemies. He liked to have, it motivated him. And so I don't know, like after the first year, I actually went by and I saw him. I said, here's a pile of stuff that I wrote, everything, because he always said I never read it. That's what he always said. I never read anything. Yeah. So I brought him everything I'd written, and I'd said, read it. And if you have any problems with it, let me know. And he wouldn't, he didn't want to do that. And so, but like, I remember when he recruited Wani, there were people who criticized him because it was, when he hired Milt, because they criticized him because they're like, that's just a package deal. And I praised it. I said, who cares? It's a package. If you can get Wani because it's a package deal, and Milt, Milt knows a lot about basketball. So I never knew quite why he hated me, but he did hate me. And that I just came to accept it. Like that was, and it was still a hell of a fun ride. I mean, it was a crazy fun ride, and you guys were great. It's not just that you were good at basketball. The personalities were good, didn't you think? I mean, that was the other part about it. It was easy to attach to you and to CDR and, and right down the line, it was, and Joey, obviously. So it was a group that was easy to cover because you were so much fun.
Yeah, if you can say one of your funniest stories about Cal, what would it be?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he would say stuff all the time. Like he'd say stuff like, I remember when he said, who was the shooter who he said was leading he'd just make stuff up all the time. He'd say, what was the name of the shooter? He said was the leading scorer at points per minute in the country. We're not even close. But this is one thing John did that, do you remember Smitty, right?
Yep.
So Smitty came up to me one day at practice and he said, hey, Jeff, me and some buddies have a bet. We bet that, I bet that you passed the Washington, D.C. bar. He bet that you passed the Massachusetts bar exam. And I'm like, who the hell has that kind of a bet? Like, that's what bar exam I passed? Because I'd been a lawyer in my past life. And the truth of the matter is I passed the New York bar exam because I'm from Buffalo originally, and then you can waive into DC. But the reason that they asked me that question was because I had criticized John, and John had this theory that the reason why I was no longer a lawyer was because I'd failed the bar exam, and he wanted to find out that he wanted to get stuff on me and prove that I'd failed the bar exam because he was like, so I don't know if that's a funny story, but like that is a story about John. But I don't know. He was something else, man. He was something else. And I would hire him in a minute to coach my basketball team. Wouldn't you?